When we think of Star Trek heroes, we usually imagine the likes of Jean-Luc Picard, Kathryn Janeway, and many more who've graced our screens. However, sometimes the secondary characters of a series become fan favourites for how they are portrayed. This is the case of Starfleet Admiral William J. Ross, portrayed by the late Barry Jenner. Ross appeared in Deep Space Nine as the Admiral coordinating Starfleet and the Alliance military operations during the Dominion War. But what happened to Admiral Ross after the war? Welcome to Trek Central, I'm your host, Captain Jack. If you want to keep up to date on all the latest Star Trek news, lore and more, then make sure to hit that subscribe button to never miss a video from the team here at Trek Central. You can also follow us on social media for daily updates on the Star Trek universe. You can find all these links, including the link to our Patreon, via the video description below. Check out our Patreon if you want early access to these videos, as well as supporting what we're creating here on YouTube. Oh, and you can also hit that join button if you want to join our YouTube memberships as well. It's basically the same thing. Now, as always, please let us know your thoughts in the comments section below, because if you're talking about Star Trek, then we want to hear about it. That also extends to this topic. Who should we talk about next and their future in the Star Trek universe? Get commenting. Okay, engage. Let's remind you who William Ross is. As Star Trek Deep Space Nine enters its 6th season and the Dominion War heated up, Barry Jenner joined the cast of the series to play Starfleet Admiral William J. Ross. He first appeared in the Season 6 episode, A Time to Stand. Initially, Ross was the commanding officer of Starbase 375, as well as the leading flag officer responsible for the Dominion War. Ross would play a large part in the Dominion War. Later, in 2374, he would make Captain Benjamin Sisko his adjutant as he believed the pair made a great team. Ross attended Sisko's briefing on Operation Return, which would see the retaking of Deep Space Nine. Once the plan was agreed and signed off on, Ross wished Sisko good luck, and the fleet departed Starbase 375. In the lead-up to the first Battle of Shintoka, Admiral Ross worked with the Klingon General Martok in discussing the Romulans taking an offensive approach in the Dominion War. This eventually worked, and Romulan Senator Leethunt agreed to move their forces. Something that was a surprise was seeing Admiral Ross aid the Covert Federation Organization, Section 31. Their agents were infiltrating the conference on Romulus to place an operative known as Kaval at the highest level of the Romulan government. Dr. Julian Bashir of Deep Space Nine eventually discovered what Ross and Section 31 were doing. Ross admitted he did not like what he was doing, but it was for the good of the Alliance and the eventual outcome of the Dominion War.
Enter Arma. Einem Sealant Legis.
In time of war, the law falls silent.
Ross was present on Deep Space Nine following the disastrous Second Battle of Shintoka, which saw the loss of most of the Alliance fleet as well as the destruction of the USS Defiant. However, the silver lining was that the Cardassian legate Damar had formed an anti-Dominion resistance. With this news, Ross, Sisko, and Martok agreed that it would be a mistake to allow Dominion forces to sit and rebuild inside Cardassian-controlled space. A major offensive was launched, with Admiral Ross personally taking command of a Starfleet element aboard a Federation starship. It is unknown what specific starship Ross would command at this point during the Dominion War. The ensuing battle was tough, with the Romulans taking bad damage. Once the battle was won, thanks to the Cardassians switching sides, Ross initially suggested that the Alliance fleet keep the Dominion bottled up on Cardassia Prime. Eventually, he was convinced otherwise. Admiral Ross changed his mind, and the Federation Alliance fleet headed into the final battle of the Dominion War, the Battle of Cardassia Prime. The Battle of Cardassia Prime was tough, but eventually, thanks to forces on the ground and the determination of the fleet, it was won in favour of the Federation Alliance. Captain Sisko, General Martok, and Admiral Ross all stood in the destroyed mess of the planet, contemplating what the victory meant and the cost it took to end the Dominion War. With the return to Deep Space Nine, Admiral Ross participated in the signing of a peace treaty that effectively and officially ended the Dominion War. So where does Admiral Ross's story continue? Well, for this we need to look at the extended media of the Star Trek universe. This comes in the form of books, comics, and video games. As a quick note, since most of the following information is from books, we'll use reference footage to enhance the on-screen storytelling. If we mention a book, you can find a link in the video description below. Following the end of the Dominion War, Ross kept himself busy. He would oversee the response to an attack on Deep Space Nine by a group of rogue Jem'Hadar soldiers, as well as the Gateway Crisis. In 2376, Ross would jointly sign a document which admitted Bajor officially into the Federation. This is told from the Deep Space Nine novel, Unity. In the joint Deep Space Nine-Section 31 novel, Abyss, Ross had access to the Pathfinder project database, and would ask the crew of Deep Space Nine for their opinions on the data that the USS Voyager had gathered while stranded in the Delta Quadrant. In late 2379, Ross discovered that Federation President Min Zaif was responsible for supplying the Tezwan madman, known as Kinshwan, with weapons that led to the deaths of 6,000 Klingon warriors. Due to the political and ethical crisis this represented, Ross and several other Starfleet admirals resolved to remove President Zaif from office. Ross would insist that the president needed to be held accountable for his crimes, even if the general public never knew. It was around this time that the admiral was contacted by Section 31. The rogue intelligence agency wrote the president's resignation speech, and when they left office, they had the president and his top advisors executed for their crimes. Ross was considered a top candidate for the role of Federation president. He would decline to run, but instead become a top advisor for Baco's campaign. Following the election of President Baco, Ross and Admiral Leonard James Akar ordered the lunar-class USS Titan, under the command of Captain William T. Riker, to Romulus. This was in order to provide aid and establish fresh diplomatic relations with the stricken Romulan Star Empire, following the assassination of the Imperial Senate. In 2380, Ross would personally serve as Starfleet liaison to Federation President Baco. However, by the end of the year, he would retire from his position as well as retire his Starfleet career. President Baco had actually discovered Ross's involvement in the removal of Zaif from office, as well as his assassination. Ross chose not to inform Baco of the role Section 31 played in the former president's death, fearing that the Shadow Organization would take her out of the picture as well. Ultimately, Ross took the fall of President Zaif's death, but because of his respected position and history in Starfleet, Baco allowed Ross to vanish into obscurity rather than face public punishment. These events are told through the novels A Time to Kill, A Time to Heal, A Time for War, A Time for Peace, and Articles of the Federation. Years later, in 2386, Section 31 collapsed. This resulted in a full story of Admiral Ross's involvement in the organization being released to the general public. Late in the same year, while living on the planet of Kaldos II, Ross was arrested by the Federation Security Agency on a number of charges, due to his involvement with Section 31. Admiral Ross was returned to Earth and held at a secure facility. The former Admiral was interviewed by the Attorney General of the United Federation of Planets, Philippa Louvois. She noted that while Ross acted with a military bearing, he appeared much older than when she last saw him. During the interview with Louvois, Ross was informed that he would be recalled to active duty until legal proceedings could be completed. Formal charges were read against Ross, along with questions about his involvement with Section 31. During this official interview, Federation officer Margaret Dempsey shot and killed Admiral Ross. This was in revenge for Dempsey's husband being murdered by Section 31. The organization had engineered the crash of a shuttle he had been traveling on with a Federation diplomat. Following the death of Admiral Ross, Starfleet would analyze the Section 31 files, and found that Ross had been one of the main organic leaders of the rogue agency. This is told through the TNG novel Available Light. Unfortunately, with his death and the involvement of Section 31 becoming public, Admiral Ross's legacy and his history with the Dominion War would remain tarnished. So that is the fate of Admiral William Ross in the Star Trek universe. While most Star Trek characters get a happy ending, it is sad to see that Ross will not be one of those, especially for his service in the Dominion War. What do you think of the way the character was handled in the extended media? Do you prefer not to know and leave it as how canon's established basically nothing? Or do you like the way the character went out, given his involvement with Section 31 was shown in Deep Space Nine? Remember, if you want to keep up to date on the latest Star Trek news, lore, and more, then make sure to hit that subscribe button to never miss a video from the team here at Trek Central. You can also follow us on social media or join our community Discord server. Don't forget to use the links in the video description to check out our social media links and also our link to our Patreon. Thanks for supporting the channel. For now, I've been Captain Jack. Thanks for watching once again, and we'll see you next time. Live long and prosper, my friends.